Is this thing on? All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is our So You Want to Be a Candidate session. I am Mike Sistak with American Farm Bureau. I am our Director of Advocacy and Political Management. I see a couple of familiar faces in the crowd. You've probably been to either our campaign school before, which I will talk about. You've probably seen some of the political analysis I did throughout the last election. But what we're going to start with here, we are joined today by Texas State Senator Mr. Flores. We're going to have a conversation about his experience running for office. He is a Texas Farm Bureau member. So Senator Flores, please just tell us a little bit about yourself, your ag background, and we'll start there.
Well, howdy everyone. Thank you for being here today. I'm Pete Flores, and I represent Senate District 24. There are 31 members in the Senate, and each one of us represent just under 1 million people in this state. So I kind of run west of San Antonio all the way out to Sonora, all the Texas Hill Country, and I run all the way to Gatesville, and then I have a piece of Williamson County and all of Bell, including all of Fort Cavazos, formerly Fort Hood. So it's quite a diverse area and very rural and small towns. And the biggest town I have in my district, of course, is Killeen. But I do have a piece of Austin, strange enough, in Williamson County. But it's my background, of course, in ag. Of course, my daddy was Air Force, so we traveled all over. But working on the farms, when I was a kid, I pitched watermelons, I chopped cotton, moved water pipelines. Of course, you had to know how to work cattle. That's how I put myself through A&M. Being poor as we were, I knew how to work cows, so I worked cattle for the vet school, and that's what got me this ring. So I've always been a big proponent of agriculture, and both as a worker and knowing what it meant to our economy and our way of life and what it means to be Texan.
And how long have you been a member of Texas Farm Bureau?
I've been a member of Farm Bureau probably about 6 to 8 years, thereabouts.
Okay, excellent. So what prompted you to run for office? Had you held local office before the Senate? Were you on a commission, appointed position? What kind of got you into politics?
Well, I served as a Texas State Game Warden for 27 years. And at the end of my career, I was the Colonel Game Warden for the states, which meant I had to live here in Austin and work at the Capitol. So we generally gauged our life by sessions. So I did 4 sessions. And during that time, you get to work with members of the House and members of the Senate, with the governor, lieutenant governor, the speaker, and of course with the agencies and the comptroller. And you learn how government works because you're doing that as a main proponent for the law enforcement division for the game warden service. And so I got to break myself in that way. And previous to that, of course, when I was in junior college, I was the vice president of the student government and an ex officio member on the board of trustees. And while I was a warden, and after I got appointed by Governor Abbott to the Education Commission of the States as a commissioner on the national level, and then also by Governor Perry for an employee charitable campaign policy committee 2 times. So after that, when I retired in 2012, I guess I wasn't through with public service, and the local senator at the time in the district I was in, he was kind of having a little bit of problems, and I jumped in because I thought, well, I spent my life in public service, and I don't like the way this individual is conducting himself, so as the old saying says, evil flourishes if good men stand idly by. So sometimes, even if you think the odds are overwhelming, you just got to give it a go. Because you've had decisions in your life, I'm sure each and every one of you, where you've thought, what if? What if? What if I do this? What if I don't do this? And I chose to jump in 2016 and run against the local senator here from the south side of San Antonio. And of course, I got whooped pretty bad. It was like 36 points. But I thought, wow, I got 97,200 votes. That's not bad. And I knew it was going to happen to the senator at the time. And sure enough, he ended up going to the federal penitentiary and which creates opportunity. And of course, being that I never stopped working, though. I never stopped going to the rodeos. I never stopped going to the county fairs. I never stopped showing up all over, putting my old truck, which now has 256,000 miles on it. But old Big Red, the campaign truck, still kept rolling. And so when the special election came around to fill that vacancy, I ended up winning that election by 7 points. And it shocked the world. I don't know if you all remember that election. And but it was just a proof that anything's possible if you just keep working hard and don't give up.
Yeah. So in our campaign school that we do, we teach candidates, you have to run for, one, the office that you're running for, otherwise people won't take you seriously. But then two, you have to run on the issues that really matter for your district, regardless of what else is going on in the state or the country, but what matters to your constituents. So that first time you ran, what were the issues that you decided to run on that ultimately got you to that finish line?
Well, I kept my campaign clean. Nowadays things are getting where you get into public office, just outrageous attacks on your family, on your reputation, just lies. I didn't do that. I didn't do that then. I didn't do that now. You just stick with the facts. But what I concentrated on then and now is what matters to the people when I go into a cafe in any one of my towns, and what matters to the people sitting in that room. Am I going to get one issue that's so partisan and so out of their mind, or am I going to go over there and talk about their property taxes? Am I going to talk about the border security? Am I going to talk about education? Am I going to talk about public safety? Roads, jobs, water, those are the things that prices of groceries, those are the things that matter. So I ran my first campaign, I called it based on the pillars of what made us the great constitutional republic that we are and the great Texas that we are, the things that are the fundamental to us and matter to everybody, whether you're a Democrat or Republican or independent, that when they all can agree that we need those things. And you were going to work. I was going to work to deliver, make sure those things were delivered when I got into office, and then deliver. You got to deliver.
So you were running on Texas values, the pillars that made Texas the great state that it is.
Absolutely. When you talk about rural Texas, what's important to rural Texas, healthcare is important. Being able to have the least government regulation as possible while you're conducting your farming or ranching operations, the ability to get to market, the ability to make money, the ability to have good roads, good law enforcement. Those are all things that that matter, that make for quality of life in a community, and I think that's it was said once, that the role of government is to do what you can't do as individuals. But other than that, the role of government is to let the great American individuals do what they do best, and what they can't do individually, that's the role of government collectively, and that would be building roads, the Army, public safety, things like that. But other than that, leave Americans alone.
Well, I can see why you got elected the first time, but of course, we are in an environment now that as soon as we elect somebody, suddenly we want to throw the bums out. So good luck the moment you get elected. So, what have you learned now being an incumbent? You've run for re-election, 2-3 times now?
Yeah, I know what it is to be in. I know what it is to be out.
Yeah.
But the main thing is, if you believe that you still serve a purpose, and that you can make a difference, don't give up. Just never give up. I'm an example of that, but not to put myself on the same level, but look at President Trump. That's another great example of never giving up, just doing the right thing, and you may be in and then you may be out, but you know what? You're going to come back. And you're going to come back because you're doing the right thing for the right reason, and you're doing it honorably, and again, you produce results. You do what the people need, and they know it, that you'll deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. So for any members here today that might be thinking, they want to run for office. We've got another cycle already that people are, they already got their minds on it, or maybe they want to run sometime down the road. I mean, what's your best advice for somebody running, for their first campaign?
Is first of all, believe in what you're fixing to do. Because folks will be able to see if you're full of baloney or not right off the bat, or if you're just in there for yourself, and the things you're talking about are just full of smoke and mirrors. They may work for the first few appearances you make, and all of a sudden, whoa, that's not true. Then you never did that. So first of all, be sincere that that's what you want to do, because you're fixing to get into a commitment that can get pretty deep and very vicious. But as long as you take the high road, like Warren Buffett said, you take the high road because it's less travel there. So you always want to take the high road on things. Be truthful. State facts. Just tell it. And if you don't know, you don't know. But you'll find out. But don't throw a bunch of baloney out there, and because you'll end up, that'll be a person that if you elect, they're going to end up delivering baloney to you. I can use another word, but I'll use that one.
So there's a joke that every politician looks in the mirror and they see the President of the United States staring back at them. Obviously, the first time you run, not everybody's ready to just jump right to the top. So, what's your advice about running for local office as well? Because obviously those have a big impact on what happens in our communities, what happens on the farm, what happens for our families. What's your advice about running for local office?
I think you're right on. I think folks, some of the most, a state senator, a state representative, the ones who are really impacting you and are really important are your local offices. School boards, very important to the direction of education, and which establishes whether we're a successful society or not, begins there. And they spend the most of your tax money there in the school districts, the counties, the cities. Be involved. You get involved. You don't say, well, they're going to do what they want to do anyway. Well, you know what? They is us. They is all of us. And if you don't get involved and remind people that in this constitutional republic that we are the individual and empowered, and that you are the boss, and you remind them about whether they are doing a good job or not by electing or re-electing them, on the most part, it's getting involved at that local level that's so very important, not only to our nation, but our state, but everything having to do with our way of life and how we do business and conduct our agriculture, and especially our rural counties. Very important. Local to me, is the most important.
So now that you've been in the Senate for so many years, how do you see what you do, the decisions you make? Do you get to see with your own eyes, when you're back out in the district, that the decisions you make, how they're impacting the farmers and the ranchers in your community? I mean, do you get the opportunity to actually see that public policy doing the best work for the people?
Yes, I've had the privilege to be able to do that. There's kind of two things I think about when doing legislation, and one is kind of using like the doctor's oath. First, do no harm. So who does this bill harm, whether intentionally or unintentionally? So you want to think about, what does this bill do? Who does it harm? So other than in criminal justice, where I'm doing increased penalties and things like that, which I chair criminal justice in the Senate, those criminals, they need to be dealt with. But when you're dealing with legislation having to do with taxes, having to do with how you do your business, regulation, money that we're putting into different aspects of your life, we want to make sure that especially that our districts are represented well. An example that I can give is when I represented 19 in this part of San Antonio, we had the Austin State Hospital that it's over 110 years old, and it was quite medieval, and that's putting nice words into it. So I worked with Kirk Watson, the senator out of Austin, who's now the mayor, which is a bipartisan effort, because he had Austin State Hospital, also had the same circumstance, and Rusk in East Texas. And we secured the funding to be able to rebuild those state hospitals. And when I went to the reopening of that state hospital and saw that how well it was done, and that it came to fruition and would help Texas, but especially the 76 counties that SASH serves. That's quite satisfying.
Well, Senator, thank you so much for your time and joining us. While we still have a few minutes here before we get the hook, I do want to take a moment to tell you all about our campaign school, which I mentioned before. This is something that Farm Bureau has been doing since 1987. And candidates who have attended our campaign school, and I'm talking about thousands of people running for state legislature, local offices, thousands of people. 82% of those folks, on average, have gone on to win their races after they go through our school. Our school is effective because we teach it for any level of elected office. Whether you're running for president or you're running for school board, what we teach can be applied to the campaign that you're running. You just have to, learn to apply what we have taught you for the level of office that you are running for. Now, it's nonpartisan. We do that on purpose because we're not trying to tell someone how to be a good Republican or how to be a good Democrat. Frankly, when I have people of both parties in the room together, I sit them at the same table and make them work together, and it's like putting the petulant children together. I'm gonna make you learn how to be friends. But we keep it nonpartisan because we want people to focus on the issues that matter to their district, the issues that matter to the race that they are running. So I don't care if it's a Republican or Democrat that shows up. We just want good people who are going to be good public servants. It's also not just for the candidates. Spouses, staff, they all play a role in your campaign. So we've had people show up to our campaign schools. They're not running for office, but maybe they're going to be a staff member for somebody who's going to run for office. Or maybe they're there with their husband or wife who wants to run for office. There is a role for all those people, and we teach that as well. Now, it's not for the faint of heart. It's a day-and-a-half long program that we do. It's Campaign 101. We break everything down, the nuts and bolts of running an effective campaign for office. We put you through a rigorous media training. We make you run a mock election to get a fake state senator elected to a fake state senate so that you can apply in real time what we are doing, but that's why it's so effective. Now, the map there shows you the highlighted states. Those were the states that we taught this in the 2023-2024 campaign cycle. But of course, we live in a democratic system, so we've got more offices that are going to be coming up this year and next year for election. All 35 U.S. Senate seats, every seat in the U.S. House, over 6,200 state legislative seats will be decided this year and next year. 38 states with all those different statewide races, and then of course thousands of elections for local offices will be held. And as the senator talked about, all of these things here, from mayor, school board, county attorney, soil and water conservation districts, these all play an important role in agriculture. The policy book that our delegates are going to put together here in a couple of days, the work that you did in your states at the county level and then at your state annual meetings to put together policy, all those offices are going to have an effect somewhere on a piece of policy. So they are all that important, and that's why we need good people to run for them. And keep in mind, too, think about the way our state legislative districts or congressional districts are drawn these days. Everything is very heavily concentrated in urban and suburban areas, so we're getting a lot of people elected who they don't have an ag background. But that's our opportunity, one, to teach them as Farm Bureau, but two, to try and find good people to run for office who are going to be allies of agriculture. So even if you yourself, as a Farm Bureau member, maybe you don't want to run, but say you know somebody who lives in central San Antonio and you think that person would be really good, you should recruit them to come to the campaign school, the one that we'll do here in Texas later this year. And so speaking of which, we are in our planning stages for campaign schools for this current cycle. At the moment, we've got 21 states that have expressed interest in hosting a campaign school this year. So north to south, east to west, there's a lot of states that we'll be doing this in. I won't give you dates because we're still figuring that out. But if you see your state highlighted there, talk to your State Farm Bureau staff, let them know that you're interested. If your state is not highlighted there, talk to your State Farm Bureau staff and let them know that you're interested, because we're not going to do it unless the interest is there and that the State Farm Bureau asks us to come. So if you have any questions about that, please feel free to reach out to me, but talk to your State Farm Bureau staff. Just want to close out, Senator. Any final thoughts from you? Thank you so much for the generous time that you've given us. I know you've got a lot to do.
Well, thank you all for, first of all, for being here and listening. But if you got on your mind to run, not keep it in your mind, but also make sure you have it in your heart. And then you're going to have the guts to do it. And stay the course, stay the facts, keep the high road, and you'll do just fine.
All right. Thank you, Senator.